Welcome back to Psychology of Peace Building. I'm going to be dancing back and forth between negative, destructive, escalating, potentially violent conflict, and powerful peace building tools. So last time you listened to me, I was focused on the latter. I'm going to be going back to intergroup dynamics and some of their worst, how they escalate destructive, violent conflict. And groupthink is one of the ways that groups really do damage. And sadly, it's former President George W. Bush who's also a good example of this. He did not allow any of the people in his inner circle to dissent with him, to debate, to disagree. He just had yes people, right? And there's a serious risk of error if you surround yourself with yes people. You really are focused on relationship and forget the task, because groupthink, actually, this theory was created out of one of our space catastrophes when the engineers were not allowed to speak up and say, the emperor has no clothes. There's a problem here that we need to fix. They were shut up by groupthink, and because of that, there was a fatal mission. You can't focus on performing a task if you shut up people who know what they're talking about. Now, President Obama was the opposite from what I hear. He would walk into a room and he would want to know everyone's opinion, even the janitor that was sitting in the back of the room. The people, he was not discriminating based on what he saw as status and authority or even expertise. He really wanted to hear different perspectives and opinions. He was not pressuring people to conform. And so his decision-making was higher quality and more in touch with reality. The worst of in-groups, and if any of you have been part of a clique or a gang, you get thrown out if you betray the leadership, right? You get attacked and hurt if you dare to speak up and express an opinion that the leadership doesn't like. And that is destructive. It always backfires. So I wanted you to understand groupthink. We've seen, sadly, too much. I think actually former President Trump was also somebody who would fire. I know the candidate right now, Ron DeSantis, has just fired a lot of people. They want yes people. They want people who they can snap their fingers and manipulate and pressure into conformity. And that's just not what we need for quality group decision-making, a democracy, right? What President Obama did is what I see as walking your talk, living your values, the values of democracy. You actively seek out dissent. You actively look for alternatives. Bright people know that information is power. So you encourage that kind of complex thinking. What petty groups do, what destructive groups that escalate violent conflict do, is pit people against each other. And at their worst, they will pick a scapegoat, a kicking post. And I hope none of you have been the kicking post of a parent when they had a bad day at work and they took it out on you. That's displaced conflict. When somebody doesn't have the courage to resolve the conflict or work out the conflict with the person that they're in conflict with, so they take it out on the dog or they take it out on their child. That's, also destructive practice. But by scapegoating people, the destructive in-groups, the gangs, the cliques, will try to get closer to each other by talking against an outsider. And that's not healthy, right? Gossiping against a scapegoat, an outsider, to get close. Come on, guys. Where are the healthy peace-building skills there? But it's very common human behavior. You see it everywhere. Yeah, from the locker room to, you tell me, it's everywhere. And I want you to know how destructive it is. Okay, let's see. I think that's enough on destructive human practices. Take good care.